Gina, it's your birthday.
Hey,
Yay!
it's my birthday. Happy
And
birthday.
I'm so excited because we're going to be talking about one of your favorite things on your birthday.
Nutrition.
Yes, intermittent fasting. And we're going to learn something new, listeners.
Fasting mimicking. I've never heard of
Yes.
this, and I can't wait for you guys to hear all about it.
So exciting. What a birthday gift.
I know. So today we have Renee Fitton, who is a longevity nutritionist. We are so excited to have her and dive into all these things.
We're going to learn so much.
Tara, it is January and a new year, and there's lots of exciting things that we're getting into on this podcast this year. And today's episode, I'm really excited about because we're going to talk about nutrition and intermittent fasting. You're an intermittent faster, aren't you?
I am. I feel like I found the formula for me. So I try to always eat within an 8-hour window. So a lot of times people will be like, oh my God, you're not eating breakfast. But I start later in the day because I work long hours and I eat late. So that's what works for me. But it's helped me, I think, especially in menopause, to maintain my weight and stay where I need to be.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've tried it a couple of times, and it definitely was a shift. I like to just eat all the time.
Well,
so
me too.
I know, but I don't know, I was finding it hard with the intermittent fasting because sometimes I like breakfast, sometimes I have to go to brunch and I have to have a mimosa, and then sometimes I'm at the game at 9:00 at night and I have to have popcorn. So it kind of gets a little hairy. So I don't do it anymore, but I do try to stay on top of my nutrition. I, underwent a huge weight loss recently, right. And, trying to revamp my nutrition. And I was with a nutritionist for a while to try to get myself on track. And I know one of the things that I ate a lot of was carbs. And so I'm super excited for our guest today so that we can kind of get into all this. So who do we have?
Me too. Listeners, you are in for a treat. This is right up our alleys, especially in January when everyone's making conscious choices. Today in studio, we have Renee Fitton, who is a longevity dietitian, which is really exciting for us. She's also the vice president of growth at Prolon. Welcome to the Well Off Podcast, Renee.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. Such a fun podcast to be a part of, and excited to talk about something that I think definitely is in line with January. I mean, everyone's got their January strategy and plan, and nutrition usually sneaks its way into that. And I hope that I can share some new strategies that might make it even more impactful, easier, whatever we can do to really make these things stick.
Great.
Yeah,
well, we're ready.
We're really excited. Yes.
Before we talk about the new, can we kind of pivot back and talk a little bit about intermittent fasting, because it's gotten a lot of attention, and I think you have to find the formula that works for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wait, hold on. I'm sorry. Before we do that, Renee, can you just give a quick background on you?
For sure.
What your credentials are real quick, and then we'll go into the intermittent. Okay.
Perfect.
Renee, tell us a little bit about your credentials.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a registered dietitian, which means that I had to go through some pretty hefty education. I got my master's degree in nutrition along with an undergrad, along with 1,200 hours of internship and in clinical settings, so working in hospitals and really understanding the true depths of nutrition. And then, of course, getting a credentialing exam. And then on top of that, you need to kind of do continuing education. And that was now, it's been, my gosh, quite some time that I have had that under my belt. But the reason why I layer on the term longevity dietitian on top of just kind of that standard dietitian credential is because I got my master's degree in health span nutrition. It's one of the only programs in the world that focuses on longevity. And it was created by the incredible Dr. Walter Longo, who is recognized as one of the leading longevity researchers in the world today. And so the program, kind of layers on another level of nutrition that is heavily focused on not just how to live longer, but how to live healthier longer as well. And so that is, and since I got that master's degree, it has really highly focused all of my energy, work, clientele on optimizing this concept of health span.
I love that because I'm very focused and I read so much about longevity. And my goal is to live to be at least 100, but not just be on the earth, but be thriving and independent and have vitality. So I'm always interested in what should you eat? How much should you move? What supplements should you take? So I love that you're going to focus on that today.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so important because they're actually now finally coming out with a little bit of data on the difference between lifespan and health span. And there's actually about a 9 to 12 year difference in between those. So that means that people are living about 9 to 12 years of the last 9 to 12 years of their life in a really unhealthy place. So it's not comfortable. It is not, kind of how we imagine, this relaxing, time where we are retired and we're getting, the best last years of our life to really soak up life. But if we're not careful, then there can be a really big difference between our total lifespan and our health span. So that's really what I spend a lot of time focusing on, and all of the tactics and tools that I leverage to support people shrinking that to ideally zero. And every year that you live, every day that you live is full of life and comfort and happiness.
Yes.
Amen.
Yes. Yes.
We want all of that.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to pivot back to the intermittent fasting piece. So talk to us about intermittent fasting.
Yeah, absolutely. So intermittent fasting is, by definition, fasting that's anything under 2 days. And people are always shocked when I say 2 days because we're so familiar with, Dr. Tara, as you mentioned, you do this like 16-8 fasting, which is certainly by far the most popular type of intermittent fasting. Although now, like, kind of, I would say close second is now 5-2 fasting, which is fasting for about a full day twice a week. And so those are probably the two of those. I know, Judith.
No thanks.
No, not the way that I do.
Absolutely not. Okay, sorry, continue.
There's people who are absolutely thriving with it. And it's funny because, Gina, I actually thought of you when I thought of that type of fasting, because you don't want, there's days where you want your mimosa and your brunch, right? And so intermittent fasting or daily intermittent fasting just doesn't fit with you. And there is still benefit to doing periodic intermittent fasting. Even if it's just like a 16-hour fast periodically, right? It doesn't have to be every day. For a lot of people, it's easier just to be in that routine, but it doesn't have to be every day, because the beauty of intermittent fasting, what we see with intermittent fasting and why it works so well, primarily for two big reasons, which is weight management and weight loss and metabolic health, is because after about 12 hours of fasting, our body actually runs out of sugar in our body to use. And it has to switch and start using fat for fuel. And where does it take it from? Stored fat. And it uses that.
Like in my ass.
Honestly, yes, but also what we're seeing.
We got a lot of junk in our trunks, Renee.
Well, hey, and you know what? I think it's a great thing. People are loving a little junk in the trunk these days, so I would leave it there. But the intermittent fasting, and especially we're going to be talking a little bit about prolonged fasting as well, but we see that it is quite targeted to the trunk, what we call trunk fat region, which is AKA belly fat, which I think for most of us, especially as we enter into perimenopause and menopause, that seems to be the area where a lot of this weight gain is focused. And it's also where some of the most dangerous fat is held, because it's around all of our organs, known as visceral fat. And we see that it is quite targeted to that region. So pretty cool. But importantly, when we go into this 12 hours plus fasted state, our body starts shifting and it starts using that fat for energy, and it starts, kind of breaking that down. So that translates also to weight loss, and especially fat loss. It also translates to our body not relying so much on sugar and blood sugar changes, but instead creating something called ketones, not to get too into the weeds of the science, but using ketones for energy. And that also helps with our metabolic health. So it is really helpful for limiting and reducing the risk of type 2 diabetes, insulin resistance. And unfortunately, again, like as we enter into our late 30s, early 40s, late 40s, this becomes more and more problematic. And so something that we do have to kind of fight back against, and using tools like this can be helpful for that.
Got it.
And when you talk about the ketones, it's putting yourself in ketosis,
Exactly.
correct? Which is the goal of, is it the paleo diet or
The ketogenic diet.
Atkins? The ketogenic diet. Okay, it has its own name.
Yeah.
Okay.
Paleo might get you into ketosis, but because there are still carbohydrates included in paleo diet, including from fruits, for example, you probably will have a hard time getting into ketosis unless you're doing a ketogenic paleo diet. And that's, I mean, quite restrictive. Like, you're taking out a lot of stuff. So. Yeah.
Wow. So much.
Like
right?
mimosas.
Yeah.
Like mimosas.
Definitely mimosas, right? Well, I mean, yeah, because
Yes.
technically I think the paleo diet is taking out alcohol as well. Although it depends which paleo person you're talking to, because some of them will leave it in there. So.
Yeah. Well, while we're kind of on the alcohol subject, so I was chatting with my brother, and he likes to do dry January. So he's in dry January, and he did it last year, and he was saying how great he felt. Like, even like the aches and pains went away. Like, talk to us about dry January, and you know, why, if you're, you know, I know we're a little bit into January, but if you haven't done it and you want to, there's still
for sure. And you can do a dry February or a dry March.
Yeah,
that's right.
Like, I know a lot of people that do, for whatever reason, a dry October. I don't know why, but that seems like a good month for people. And I'm a big proponent of it. In fact, actually, if the Canadian government just announced that their recommendation is 0 drinks of alcohol as the healthy limit. Now, you know, in the US, we still have, you know, typically for women about 2 glasses a week, and kind of like a little bit of a higher recommendation, although still quite limited. And there's a reason behind these recommendations to limit. And it's because alcohol is, yes, a toxin to our body. And it takes our body a lot of time to break down, and a lot of energy to break down that toxin, right? So as fun as it can be to our body, it is no fun. It's like everything else stops and has to focus on breaking down the alcohol. And that also includes, like, if you're eating while you're drinking, which for many people, that is oftentimes a pair that we see, your body isn't even really going to be able to focus on the food that you're consuming, and it will just all go into storage. And that also is why we see increased weight gain often with alcohol intake. It's not just that alcohol, yes, has calories, and that they are 0 nutrient density calories, and they're actually pretty high in calories per weight compared to some of the other nutrients that we see out there. But on top of that it is preventing us from really properly managing anything else in our body. So it's kind of a 2-for-1 problem, especially when it comes to weight gain, but also, of course, in terms of the health of our organ systems, and especially our liver, which is our detox organ. It's so amazing. And like, anytime we like throw a punch at it, you're taking a punch on a lot of other systems too, because it is such a valuable and important system.
So I know the US within the last year, or maybe a little bit more now, has talked about putting warning labels on alcohol the way that they did on cigarettes. But yet there's this conflicting information. Like, I'm a big fan of the blue zones, for instance, right? And so the Mediterranean diet, and they not necessarily promote, but will say that people that live to be 100 often consume wine, or, you know, in the Mediterranean areas, there's wine on the table at every meal. So where's the happy medium? Like, how do we find what works?
It's so funny because I've spent some time looking into this a little bit more. A lot of the research on like the antioxidants in wine, specifically in red wine, has kind of been kind of debunked a little bit and kind of pushed back against. But what we do know, at least in terms of kind of the cultural aspect, and what we see in the epidemiology of people in some of these blue zones is that yes, they are consuming some alcohol, but there's some important things that I want to note here about when we look at it, because it's not so much like these clinical studies, right? These are just like what we see, and so we have to be a little bit careful about what we take from this. But the way that I see it is this: in those populations, they are consuming moderate amounts of alcohol, and they are consuming it with a big table of friends and family. And so the downside of the alcohol is minimized by the incredibly positive effects of community. And
they probably walked
and
there.
Yes.
Right.
and they for sure. And on top of that, they're just, again, having like relatively small amounts, right? And they're pairing it with a whole food plant-based diet in those areas, right?
Yeah.
And so, it to me, what that research tells me is, it tells me that our lifestyle and our longevity is based off of a large number of factors. And what the key is to make sure that you are in a healthy balance. It's not telling me that alcohol is good or healthy for you. It's telling me that in moderation and paired with a healthy lifestyle, alcohol is not going to kill you. That's kind of what
That's great news for us, Gina.
Yes.
Woo.
Yes.
But of course, taking like these breaks is awesome. Like I'm definitely doing dry January this year. I'm probably going to do also a dry like September or October, and just try and fit in. And it doesn't even have to be a month. You can take 2 weeks off here and there. Just do it when you can. It can be really, really impactful and positive for your health.
I know that I used to drink a lot, like not a lot. I would drink often, not like
socially,
in one sitting,
yeah.
Socially. And it was just kind of, I lived in suburbia, and what we did is we went to baseball games, kids' baseball games, and then we'd go to somebody's house and we would just drink. That was just what we did. And then when I moved back to Connecticut a few years ago is when I started my new health journey and cut back on alcohol significantly. And the impact that had on me personally was very significant, and from all aspects, and just kind of diving into nutrition. So like kind of now segueing into the nutrition aspect of it. So someone that is really looking to kind of level up their health a little bit, and we say you can work out every day for 3 hours a day, but if you're eating crap, it doesn't matter. So talk to us about what you put in your body and how it feels.
For sure. So I mean, this is not revolutionary information. I think that most people know, whole foods, limiting processed foods, hydrating with as much water as you can. Plant-based nutrition is, at least in terms of longevity, the best bang for your buck. And so these are kind of, again, like not revolutionary ideas. But I think the hard part for a lot of people is actually implementing those things and finding ways to bring them into their lifestyle. And a lot of the time, I think it just feels like, wow, I have to fully overhaul everything. And that is overwhelming. And so I'm just not even going to bother. And what I like to remind people is that you don't have to fully overhaul your whole diet. You could have like a goal that on Mondays you just go meatless, maybe. Like that can be a really great start.
I like the baby
right?
steps, the baby
Like,
steps.
Right.
Make it
Yeah.
small. Or
Yeah.
like,
It's more sustainable.
yeah. Or like, you have this one, treat that you usually have every single day. Maybe you have it every other day, and you replace it on the other days with something that's, still a sweet treat, but maybe something that you make at home, like with fruits. I don't know. But you can, and don't lose your non-negotiables either. If that evening treat is like I'm not going to survive without this, then, look at something else that you can do, right? Like there isn't just one answer on how you can support your health and wellness and nutrition. There are literally millions of ways that you can do it. You just need to find the way for you, and you need to pick one. And what we see is that if you set a reasonable goal and you try and stick with it for, like, let's say 30 and even 45 days or so, what you'll see is that at the end of that 30 to 45 days, you'll check in with yourself. And I always I will set a day, like this is the celebration day that we were able to accomplish this for this period of time. And if you did in fact do it, celebrate it. And that reinforcement that you get from the victory of accomplishing this will motivate you to do the next thing and the next thing. And then you can just start stacking on habits. And the next thing you know, by the end of the year, or by the end of even 3, 4, 5 years, like you're a totally different person with really incredibly healthy habits. And even if you're not perfect, the delta from where you were a year ago is really what matters.
And those are great points. And I think, even though January isn't over, so many people have already given up on their resolutions, and 88%, I think, of resolutions fail. But like even your suggestion to just go meatless on Mondays. So maybe you couldn't avoid meat. Do it on Tuesday. I think, we get too hard on ourselves or too rigid, and tomorrow's a new day. Like we can always, and that is something personally that I had to learn, like on my own health and wellness journey and trying to have a healthier relationship with food. And like earlier we were talking about, that Gina has to have her breakfast. I mean, there's some mornings I wake up and I could like eat my shoe. I'm so hungry.
Yeah.
So I do eat breakfast, but then I know that then I'm not going to eat lunch and dinner and snacks and like eat outside of that 8-hour window. Then I have to like cut my day of eating shorter. So it's just, and it sounds like very rigid almost, but it isn't. Like you just get very used to it, and it is what it is. And I'll say to my husband, I'm not eating dinner tonight. So that was something that he had to adapt to too, because like he would cook and expect me to eat no matter what, and I'm like, no, I'm not. It's like out of the window. I can't.
Yeah.
So.
And
wow, you are really strict.
Yeah, I am. But it sounds worse than it is. It's just like lifestyle now.
Well,
and I feel better, and I pay the price if I don't follow that. Like if I have a day where I don't stick to my intermittent fasting and I eat like breakfast, lunch, dinner, whatever, I feel like crap the next day.
And that's the thing. You really do have to listen to your body too. And I'll say a couple of things too about some of the things that I hear. So one is that for a lot of people, actually doing the morning, skipping breakfast is the easiest way to engage in intermittent fasting. And that's totally fine and okay. But it is worth noting that the generally recognized best way to intermittent fast is actually to shift your dinner up, because your body actually, it follows, all of your cells follow a clock. It's called the circadian rhythm.
Yes.
Circadian clock.
Yes.
And interestingly, the cells that manage our blood sugar kind of call it quits late in the evening. They're done for the day. And so it's better actually to try and shift your eating window in the morning and cut out, or at least, shift your dinner up, that to help with that circadian rhythm. So that can be even more impactful. It doesn't mean that doing intermittent fasting the other way isn't going to have benefit, because you're still hitting that 12 plus hour window and going into that ketosis. But it is worth noting just in terms of like how to support your blood sugar even better. So I always give that one as like a leveling up. And on days where, Dr. Tara, you have your breakfast, like honestly, I wouldn't feel bad at all, because your body is actually going to thank you for this shifted in the other direction.
Right.
But the other thing that I wanted to note is that for my intermittent fasters out there who do have like a hunger pang in the morning and you want to stay in your fasted window, there are some things that you can eat that will not kick you out of your fasting window. And this is the concept of fasting mimicking, where you get the benefits of water only fasting, but you can eat. And this is, Gina, where you finally get to shine.
I was going to say, what is this? What is this?
So fasting mimicking is as I mentioned, the ability to get the benefits of water only fasting, but with food. And it's based off of about 30 years of research that was originally actually started to help patients with cancer, where we knew that water only fasting was really beneficial in supporting patients going through chemotherapy, in reducing their symptoms. And they also were even starting to see benefits in outcomes too. But nobody would research this, and no physicians were like, sure, I'll put my patients going through chemotherapy on water only fasting, because they were worried that they were not going to get the nutrition that they needed to, sustain and to also, support energy and fighting back against the cancer. Right. So it's like this, we see some benefits, but we see some big risks. And so research went into figuring out, what are our cells actually defining as a fasted state? Is it possible to eat certain foods and our bodies still get the benefits of water only fasting? And it turns out that there was. And so these researchers figured out the exact foods in the exact amounts that we can have that live below this threshold, before the alarm bells sound that say food is here. So that's the concept of intermittent fasting. The biggest triggers that will kick us out of a fast are going to be things that are high in protein and things that are high in simple sugars and simple carbohydrates. The things that are going to be better for us to stay in a fasted state are going to be high in healthy fats and high in fiber. And so, now Dr. Walter Longo, who's really the one who primarily uncovered this, has since created systems and programs in ways for people to not even have to think, right? You can just, say, I'm going to do an extra bar. They're mostly like, for example, for the 1 day intermittent fasting solutions, there are things like nut-based bars and nut-based shakes and things like that can be used. But there are even systems that are all the way up to 5 days of breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks that you can eat. And your body goes into this deep fasted state.
Wow. So what are some of the foods that do the fasting mimicking?
Yeah. So you'll see they're all going to be fully plant-based, right? Because one of the biggest triggers is protein. So we won't see any animal foods in there. We will also see a lot of primarily fruits, vegetables, and nuts. That's a lot of what you're going to see. Now, the fruits are quite limited, I should say, actually. So I should really just say vegetables and nuts as kind of the primary ingredients that you will see, with olive oil as well. That's a lot of what you'll see. So for example, if we look at like a 5-day strategy, you might start your morning with a nut-based breakfast bar. It's going to be jam-packed with nuts, maybe a little teensy bit of honey, not too much because we don't want to kick ourselves out of that, and lots of healthy fiber. And then for your snack, you might have things like olives or like kale crackers with nuts and seeds, things like that. Then for your lunch, you'll have a plant-based soup, like maybe a tomato or a minestrone or something like that. And then you'll have another snack, another soup, and then you can even finish the day with like a little chocolate at the end of the day. All of that can keep you in a fasted state.
Wow. Okay, good to know.
Yes,
and a lot of the things that you rattled off are things that I eat. Yeah. So yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. I love
that.
Yeah. It's really incredible. I mean, the science is amazing, but I need to, I probably made it sound a little easier than what it really is, because you have to be really within this very particular window. And that's why I always recommend that people don't just kind of makeshift your own. Use some of the products that are already designed and have had the science tested. There's really only 2 companies right now that are doing that. One of them is called L Nutra Health, and the other one is called Prolon. And they make kits, either like those, like the breakfast bars or the breakfast shakes or whatever, for people who are doing intermittent fasting. They make 1-day solutions, and then they make 5-day solutions. And all of those are available. And honestly, like, because you don't have to buy anything else, you end up usually saving money.
So this is your company.
Yes.
So talk to us about your company.
So this is L Nutra. They are the leading longevity nutrition company in the world, and the only makers of fasting mimicking products at this time. It is all founded based off of the work of Dr. Walter Longo, and he is still on the board and very heavily involved in everything that comes out of this. There are now 47 clinical trials with these specific fasting mimicking protocols. And
Wow.
we're seeing research across the board. We're talking from weight loss to skin health to longevity and biological age reversal, autoimmune health, oncology.
Wait. Go back. Biological age reversal?
Yes.
What the heck is
Okay, so
that?
biological
We
age.
need it. We need to get some of
Yes.
that.
Sign me up. Are they doing like a test
Yes.
trial
Yeah,
for somebody?
honestly,
We'll
Anyway.
we
volunteer.
totally could. That would be really
my
fun.
God.
We can
Let's do it.
can
We'll
get you
do
guys
it.
to do this, and I'll tell you what the research shows, and then we can see how you guys show up in terms of that bio age
Done.
change.
Because I'm really only
Yeah.
25.
I mean, and you know, at heart and apparently in biological age too, you know, like we can do it
Oh
all.
my God.
So
Let's do it.
so when we look at biological age, importantly, biological age can be measured in a lot of different ways, but the generally recognized gold standard today uses anywhere from about 7 to 9 different biomarkers that have been long associated with the people who live the longest, healthiest lives. So that's something called the pheno age. But anyway, the long and short of it is it's a number that it's an age that your body is actually behaving like. And so the number on our birth certificate, on our driver's licenses, throw that in the trash. No one cares. What your body cares about is how it's actually behaving. And unfortunately, you can actually be older than your true age. Your biological age can be older than your true age. But of course, we all want to be younger than our true age. And so that's what we want to achieve here. And what we've been able to show with fasting mimicking protocols is, and this is just with 5 days of a fasting mimicking program a month for 3 months in a row. That's it. So a total of 15 days over 3 months. They were able to reverse on average biological age by 2.5 years.
Wow.
That's amazing.
I could handle 15
Right?
days.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
And so it's really quite impressive. And it's like 5 days of eating food, you know, it's just, you're eating this specific food, which again, I'm never going to lie and I'll be transparent and say it's still a challenge, right? Because you can't have whatever you want in the fridge, but it is much easier certainly than water only fasting. And it's really just something that you have to do maybe 3 to 4 times a year. Okay. So like what we see is if you do it 3 times a year, for a period of 20 years, there's an 11-year biological age reversal.
Wow.
Yeah. So it compounds.
All right. We're in.
We're
Sign
doing
us
it.
up.
I'm so excited. But yeah, I've done this 16 times and I can tell you that it is every time I notice something new and impactful in my health. Again, because it goes across so many different parts of our system, because it's working at a deep cellular level, it can impact so much. What happens when we go into fasts that are longer than 2 days? And that's why when we started at the beginning, I said intermittent fasting, the definition of intermittent fasting is anything under 2 days. The reason we use that cutoff to define intermittent fasting and prolonged fasting or long fasting is that at the 3-day mark, something gets turned on that wasn't turned on before, known as autophagy. And what that means is that I like to think of it like a vacuum cleaner for our cells. It's just going in and it's getting rid of the junk that accumulates over time, no matter who you are, no matter how healthy you are. Like even a performance vehicle, after it goes around the track enough times, it needs to stop and change the tires. And that same thing needs to happen with our cells. We need to go in and clean up the junk that has accumulated just from living our lives. And that's what autophagy does. It goes in and it does a quick spring cleaning. It gets rid of the junk and it allows new space for new, healthier, cleaner components of our cells. So when we work at that cellular level, when we do this deep spring cleaning at the cell level, that's our full body. Every single part of our body is made up of cells. So we're getting a lot of benefit, and that's why we see, 47 clinical trials across tons of different, health conditions, healthy individuals, biological age, you name it.
Fascinating.
Wow. This really is
I
so
know.
fascinating.
I mean, it is a science, and for good reason. I mean, there's so much to know. And I'm learning so much from you. I love this.
Well, I'm excited for you guys to try it and for you to see the results for yourself, because it's kind of one of those things that you kind of have to see to believe. Like come day 4 and 5, something known as keto euphoria really kicks in. And
Mm.
it really is kind of what it sounds like, euphoric, right? You start seeing things brighter, you smell things stronger, you are more energy, more alert,
Wow.
right? And you've done all of this really amazing cleanup. And then once you resume eating on day 6, your regular nutrition, people have totally changed behavior to food too, because you've gone through this process where you feel incredibly clean. A lot of people think, even during the 5 days, people are like, all I want is a burger, like that's what I want. And that's what I'm going to have on day 6. And then day 6 rolls around and all you want is like a green smoothie and a salad. And you're like, who am I? This is amazing.
Oh man, if that actually happens to me, this thing will really work.
And I mean, there have been millions of people who have done this, right? So like, I'm not just coming out of this like out of the blue. Like there's so much. I mean, the number of testimonials, I've walked thousands of people through this myself. The number of testimonials that are like people in tears at the end with how good they feel is pretty amazing for something that you only have to do 3 times a year, and this is why, like when we started the podcast, I was like, I want to help people find ways that, don't ask so much of you, don't make you do a full overhaul, but are like really impactful and can have a big change. And I think that this is one of the solutions that I think, one of many, again, like there's so many things you can do, but this is one really impactful solution that has worked for so many people.
So tell us about your podcast.
Oh, I have a podcast. It's called The Longevity Lab. And we do talk about all things longevity. So we cover not just nutrition, but also sleep, community, even oral health. Turns out that there are things that you can do when you take care of your oral health that can also help with longevity. It's like the craziest thing.
Oh my God. My sister-in-law talks about oral health nonstop.
I know,
and she's like,
obsessed.
everything is always connected. Like somebody just recently got sick and something like found it and it was connected to their, I forget the story she was telling, but it was connected to their oral health.
Yeah. Heart disease, everything.
That's what it was. It was heart disease or something.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Renee, do me one favor. Shift yourself.
Yeah. You keep coming out of the camera.
Oh, my
Keep going like out of the camera.
Tilting.
I mean, we'll have the whole full screen of it, but I just want to make sure, just to make sure.
Perfect. I'm
all right.
Here.
Okay, good. All right. So Renee, all of this stuff is so intriguing and, all a part of wellness. And on every podcast, we ask our guests, what does well off mean to you?
Oh my goodness. I have spent a lot of time trying to optimize my health and my wellness, and I've done a lot of things to do so, but there are certain things that I think have been more impactful than I ever thought that they would be, because, sometimes we, in the world of longevity, we think about so heavily on nutrition, on sleep, on exercise, and all of these these big focus topics. But I have started to realize that some of the most important things are this aspect of community. And that can be genuinely one person, but just having this place where you can feel like you can be yourself and comfortable in your own skin, and have that confidence, not just alone, but shared with at least one other person. I think that has been something that I have recognized as truly being, happy and well off.
See, that's like
Agreed.
us, Gina.
Yeah.
That's such
So
a great
cute.
answer. And I mean, we're human.
Yeah.
We have to be connected and not just superficially to have deep, meaningful connections. So I
Exactly.
couldn't agree
And
more.
feel like we can be ourselves. I think like that's one of the biggest parts, is that I think in so much of the world we're out there with some level of a mask on, right? And we feel like we have to show up in a certain way, in a certain place, with certain people, and we change that a little bit from, environment to environment. But in the moments where you can really be yourself, ideally in as many of those moments as possible, you're in a place where you feel so comfortable that you can really truly take as many of those masks and layers off, in as many situations as possible, but finding as many of those places where you can fully be free and be yourself, and really setting aside time to make those moments a priority.
100%.
Well, I hope anyone that's listening today that gave up on their New Year's resolution has
Back at it.
I know. Be back at it because you've inspired me. Even though my stomach's growling right now, I'm thinking I should fast. I should fast longer. Like you've inspired me to do more.
I'm here for it. And you don't even have to do more. It's about like doing really impactful ones, like semi-frequently,
Mm-hmm. So
Yes,
so
absolutely.
how can our newly inspired healthy listeners find you?
Well, I would love
Yes.
for you to come check me out on Instagram. That's probably the fastest and easiest way to find me these days at Fitton Nutrition. That's Fitton Nutrition. I also have a website, fittonnutrition.com. If you're interested on checking out those fasting mimicking protocols, the two companies that are doing it are Prolon, and that's prolonlife.com, Prolon life.com, and L-Nutra Health. That is the more medical side of things. So if you have type 2 diabetes or anything like that, I would go check them out. And that's L-Nutra health.com.
Great.
Love it.
Real quick, can you provide our listeners with a discount? We're not recording this.
We
but
totally can. We can
usually
make
do that.
a link just for you guys too, and we can give you a 25 or 20% fee too for any.
We love affiliate links.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. We usually do code well off.
Perfect. So what it's going to be is going to be prolonlife.com/well off.
Okay, so Gina, do you want to say that part?
Yeah. So Renee, you can offer our listeners a discount on some of these programs.
Absolutely. We are very, very excited to offer you guys up to
Yay.
25% off all products and programs. So definitely check that out. I think the link is going to be prolonlife.com/well off. And so you can go check that out.
Absolutely. We are so excited. Thank you so much for sharing all of this stuff. And guys, I know we're halfway through January, and full transparency, it's my birthday. So
Happy birthday.
but there's still time to get back on the horse. You can do it. Put you first.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
That's right. Thank you so much, Renee. You've been an inspiration and so much information.
Thank you so much.
That we have to digest. No pun intended.
Oh my gosh, I'm the pun queen, so I will take all the puns. I love it. Yes. Pun intended.
Well, have a beautiful new year.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. And I hope to be back and hear how your guys' fasting mimicking protocols went.
Oh, you
100%.
You will be.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Renee.